Добрый день, меня зовут Алексей Паевский, я научный редактор портала индикатор.ру, и специально для Университета 2035 мы беседуем с Чарльзом Джубаном, специалистом по оценке эффективности образования Университета Центральной Флориды, США. Вы первый наш спикер, кто знает все об эффективности образования. Каждый говорит о будущем образовании, об онлайн-образовании, но никто не говорит о том, откуда мы знаем, что это эффективно. Что вы можете сказать об этом?
That's a very good question. I wish I knew. I think there are a lot of things we need to think about with respect to this in terms of one is what I'm seeing here is access to education. That's part of the quality of this kind of thing. The other thing is, how do we know students have learned? And can we prepare them for the future that's going to come? Of course, we don't know what the future is. We have to think about what it will be like. What do we know is the primary resource that we have in the world today? It's information. Clearly it is. The G7 countries, of which Russia is not a member, their primary output for their GDP is information, not goods and services. So what we're trying to do is prepare our students for an information society that's going to be continually changing. What that means for us, in America, for American education and universities, is that we have to change the way we assess outcomes in students. You talked about efficiency of education. We are concerned with efficiency, but we need to be concerned with quality and somehow training our students, as you're trying to do here, to be lifelong learners in terms of not only just leaving the university, but understanding you never leave the university. This morning when I gave my talk, I talked about the unbundling of the classroom. Professors can no longer assume that their classrooms are bounded by the walls in which they teach. Whatever they do in that classroom is around the world because students are tweeting about them, they're talking about them, so they have to understand the stage in which we now operate is a world stage. It is no longer at my university or your university. We are somehow a global educational system, and we have to confront that some way or other. And you are making amazing efforts in Russia with your 2035 initiative and that kind of thing. That's an important sort of thing, and I think we have to begin thinking about that. And certainly the United States and Russia ought to be thinking about working together with respect to this. I mean, we're in a global society. We're no longer in a regional area. So we have to work on that.
Скажите, что более эффективно? Традиционное образование лицом к лицу или онлайн-образование?
Which is more efficient? Someone asked me that this morning in terms of which is more efficient. Well, we have lots of modalities, and I'm going to say this to you, that all of our work, all of our predictive work, the modality of the class does not make any difference whatsoever. What makes a difference is the design of the class, the pedagogy of the class, and I said this morning, instructors ask me, will I be effective online? And my response to them, are you effective face-to-face? If you are, you will be effective online. It is, you have to just redesign what you do. For instance, what are you going to do about your class persona? I have a particular persona. You can already see it. That's my persona in class. I'm high energy, I'm humorous, I can engage people. Now I have to figure out, how do you do that online? How can you take those characteristics, if that's what you want to be, and move it to the online environment? I do lots of webinars, and I'm terrible. I'm absolutely awful when I do a webinar because I have no response, I don't see the audience, suddenly I have to be a disc jockey. And that is not my strong point, so I have to work very hard to try to make what I do online engaging. Teaching a class is a little different because now you can interact with students individually, you can build interaction groups with students where they can solve most of the problems themselves. It is pedagogy transformed. That's what online education is. But I'll tell you this, the mode of a class really doesn't make any difference. Excellent education is excellent education. Yeah.
It's easy.
Easy for me to say, yeah.
And easy answer.
Well, it's an easy answer, it's not an easy fix.
Yes.
We have to work on this. You know, it is important, if you're going to have faculty teach in a mode, to support them. For instance, my university does not require faculty to deal with technology. They simply design what they think is effective pedagogy, and then we provide all of the support for them, the technical support, the instructional design report. If you want to be truly ineffective, give an instructor an LMS and say, go teach online. They have no ability to do it. It's a transition, so you have to give them support. If you don't do that, you're lost.
Окей. Последний вопрос про эффективность образования. В вашей собственной работе вы используете все эти новомодные фишки типа Big Data или нейронаук?
Use it all. Big data, artificial intelligence. Here's the question though with big data. If I had $1 for every time I've heard big data at this conference, I'd be a rich man. You know, I wouldn't have to go anywhere or work any longer because big data has been every section. Big data, I'm going to say this to you, data has no voice of its own, none. Data does not say anything. We have to interpret the data, we have to give it a voice. That's our responsibility. The model should be data to information to insight to action. That's the model we have to build. Big data by itself doesn't solve anything. You know, it's just big data, you know. I mean, you know, big data, what's big data? I do big sample sizes. You know, what is big data for me is not big data for Google or Amazon. You know, they do different kinds of things. What do you want to predict with big data? The problem with big data is you can find patterns that really don't mean anything. You know, they look like they mean anything, but when you move them out into the world, it's called overfit. You overfit your models to the big data, you move them out into the world and they don't work. You have to be very careful of that.
Спасибо вам за ваши слова, это действительно очень важно, но я хотел спросить вас не только о Big Data. У меня сегодня было собственное выступление на TechCrunch, и там мы говорили о том, как использовать знания, полученные нами из нейронаук, нейротехнологий для контроля эмоционального состояния студентов. Что вы про это скажете?
I have thought a lot about those kinds of things in terms of what you want to do and emotional responses and that thing. And one of the things I'm thinking about writing is a book called 1984 Revisited. In terms of we have some real responsibilities here in terms of how far we're going to go in terms of controlling people, controlling the environment in which they operate. I think there's a real important distinction we have to make in a moral imperative associated with the kinds of things we can progress in terms of neuroscience, in terms of what is it you want to do with someone when you begin reading their emotions? What is it your response? Our response as educators is to help people in terms of this. You know, we need to, and what I've heard from you and others is we need to marshal all the resources we can to transform education. Neuroscience may be one of them, you know. Someone approached me in one of the meetings about using human genomes to study people, you know, and it strikes me, ooh, this is getting a little strange for me in terms of looking at your DNA makeup to see what I want to do with you. You know, we have brave new worlds to conquer here and to confront. We're moving very fast. You know, we are moving very fast.
Very fast or too fast?
Here's the question the man asked: very fast or too fast? How about very too fast? I mean, we talk about all new things. We gave a presentation on adaptive learning, like it's new. It is not new. It's 65 years old. I mean, all these things that are talked about as new, we have to, you know, sometimes we're revisiting things, you know, from the past.
Как вы знаете, у нас есть национальная технологическая инициатива. И мы строим новый университет, университет 2035. В нем мы хотим создавать новых людей для этой инициативы. А могу попросить вас дать нам несколько советов о том, как сделать этот университет лучше?
Run very fast. No, I'm joking. As I understand it, you have 3 tracks in this, you know, 2025 university. You can go a corporate track, you can go a people track, a university kind of track in terms of letting people broker their own education. As I understand 2035, it is using all the telemetry you can to try to give people guidance and advice where they can broker their own education, and so that it will match the needs of industry, it will match their needs, and it will give them the opportunity to begin to adjust their trajectory. Who doesn't change their mind? You know, once you get data input, and I think that's one of the things you will confront in 2035 is once you begin giving people information, they will reevaluate that information and change trajectory. So I think that's one of the strong points of doing that. What you've proposed here is the new university, the university without any walls, the university which is essentially more than virtual. It is all of the things you just talked about, neuroscience, interacting with anthropology, interacting with psychometrics, interacting with effective pedagogy, interacting with resource allocation to people, and letting them see then where they can maximize their opportunity. It's giving them the maximum, in my lingo, the maximum degrees of freedom to obtain an education. It's a monumental task. And it has the potential to transform Russia, but it is a monumental task, you know. And I understand it's going to sort of implode in 2035. Once you do it, you're not going to do it anymore.
Мой следующий вопрос посвящен американской культуре. Я всех американских спикеров спрашиваю о таком замечательном элементе этой культуры, как супергерои. Как мы помним, каждый супергерой имеет одну или две суперспособности. Вам я задам два вопроса. И первый будет посвящен супергероям. Какую суперспособность должны иметь университеты будущего и студенты будущего?
The super abilities of students in the future will be simply lifelong learning. That will be their ability. What we have to train is the new generation of students to understand that what I taught them last semester is out of date. And what they have to understand is that I'm an anachronism in terms of the way I teach. That they will have to, you know, this is a strange sort of super ability, but their ability will have to be to continually regenerate their knowledge base. And that's one of their abilities. But there's another thing I want to talk about, superheroes. Everybody needs a superhero teacher. And this is one of the dangers of online education. The man who trained me, okay, the man who trained me was my superhero. He changed my life forever. One, he had confidence in me, okay? Two, he was terrifying. He knew what I knew, he knew what I didn't know, and he knew what I was capable of knowing. So I was completely transformed, transparent to this man, and he became my friend. But every student somehow needs a superhero teacher. Everyone in this room has had a teacher you can remember that has transformed your life. I worry about not having that, you know. I worry about YouTube being a superhero teacher, you know. Can you learn everything in 10-minute snippets? I don't know. I don't know. But we need those kind of superhero teachers. So I would hope somehow 2035 would be able to build that in.
Мой следующий вопрос посвящен не столько американской культуре, сколько мировой рок-музыке. Скажите, вы любите Pink Floyd?
I love Pink Floyd. And oh my God, The Wall. Oh my God, The Wall. You know, 22 million copies.
Замечательно. Тогда можете ли вы профессионально прокомментировать фразу и песню Another Brick in the Wall?
Composition?
And song.
Oh, absolutely. Paul Simon. Paul Simon singing.
We don't need no education.
When I think of all the crap I learned in high school, it's a number I can think it all, you know, in terms of Krotacom, yeah, in terms of the kinds of things. But I think the music of the various cultures is a wonderful indicator of somehow the educational kinds of values. I said this morning, I hate technology. I hate it. I do. You know, there's two kinds of people who ride motorcycles, those who go down and those who are going to go down, you know. And the same with technology. It will break. Sooner or later, it will break. My graduate students are much better at technology than I, because I grew up in a day where I have to overcome this. I have to overcome technology. They were born with it. And I said this morning, I'll be having a problem with some algorithm, and they will say to me, go have coffee. Go have coffee and a donut, and when you come back, it'll be all fixed for you, Chuck. And that's the way it is. That's the way it is. They don't think like I do. They think differently, and they think better in many respects.
Да, я знаю. И я думаю так же, как вы. Я использую технологии, но не фанатею от них.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.